Okay, I'll try someone else, thank you. Hey, who out there knows Frank Borman's number in Montreal? Give me a phone call, will ya? You know, the largest lake in the world is the Caspian Sea. Uh-oh. I think we messed up. Oh. I wish you could see what's happening here. We must have met our goal on the blood donations for the Taggart twins because the lobsters from Algowers just arrived. Are these flown in live from Maine every day?
No. Live from New York. It's Saturday night.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And you're not.
This week on the early years, we're talking about Season 4, Episode 12.
Are you sure this is Season 4? Because this reeks of Season 1. I'm sorry. Keep going. Started too soon.
With host Rick Nelson and musical guest Judy Collins. This show originally
Still say Season 1. Keep going.
This show originally aired on February 17th, 1979. Oh! Well, Brad, I'll take it from that.
Yes.
That this is not one of your higher episodes for this season.
What the hell is Ricky Nelson doing on this show? By the way, his name is Ricky Nelson. None of this Rick shit.
You're not buying into the whole he's older now so he can be Rick?
No, I'm not. He's Ricky. Capital Y in all of my notes.
Is this is this because of your obsession with Ozzie and Harriet?
I.e. Seriously, what is this guy doing on the show?
I was going to ask you.
I really don't mean it as a knock on him, because I'm sure he'd be like, sure, I'll do it.
Sure.
I mean, he was on the Love Boat last year for the one episode.
Hey.
But what is he? Why?
I don't know. I really was. I have no clue. And even looking over what Ricky Nelson was doing at this time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I still don't understand why he was booked as a host.
No, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. The last TV movie thing he did was legitimately a Love Boat episode the year before, the first season of Love Boat. His last album was 2 years old.
I just assumed he was dating Paul Simon at the time.
I had that joke. I had that line about halfway through. I was going to save it till the end. You know, part of me thought it's also weird you can't find out. I tried to dig up how he got on the show.
Yeah.
And the fact that I couldn't find a reason also makes it suspect. And then part of me thought it was, he is obviously a musician at this time, recording musician. And part of me thought, he's around the age, is he not, of the cast?
I guess.
He was a child star in the 50s. So in my mind, I thought maybe he was a huge partier and was partying with John and Dan and that. But I don't think he was a big, crazy, drug and alcohol guy.
No, I don't think so.
So that theory went out the window.
Yeah.
Because it was maybe that's he's just friends with these guys and hanging out and they've been boozing it up for the last 3 months. But
he's older than the cast too.
Is he?
Yeah, he's 13 years older than Dan. So he was 39 when they did this.
So he's Garrett's age is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. It is a really good question.
It's an odd, I just can't figure out why. Maybe it's that, this is the show put on by people who grew up on television. So they were fans of Ozzie and Harriet back in the day. And he's kind of a contemporary of theirs. But you'd still think he would want to have something going on to throw him the bone, not just throw him the bone.
Right.
That's what's so bizarre. There's no reason for him to be here.
No, none whatsoever. My favorite piece from Ricky Nelson was Rio Bravo, a film he did in 1959 with John Wayne.
God.
Remember that?
No.
Then they remade it as El Dorado. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But that's long past. Everything seems to be long past. I don't know. It's an interesting booking for this time.
It's really weird. It's a very odd choice, especially when you see how uneven the episode is.
That's being polite. Good job.
I will say this is an episode that my opinion of it as time went on and I thought about it did get better. I had a lot of negative knee-jerk reactions to this episode.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think I thought they were too, well, let's see, because obviously you're not loving it. And so I was trying to like balance, like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being too negative. Let me see if I can find some silver linings. Maybe those linings aren't here, Gary. I don't know.
Well, I think there are a few things we can say about this episode that are positive, and I don't think it's ruining anything to say.
It did end. That was a plus. Right around 1 a.m. they were done.
They were. I was going to say there are a number of sketches, especially in the first half of the show, that most of the cast is in. Everyone gets a chance to play this week, good or bad, and they try some things. So
they do take swings. That was kind of the one redeeming aspect, is in looking back, they do take swings. There are some big swings here. They don't hit, unfortunately, but if you don't take them, you don't get them. You know what I mean? So it's like, you got to give them credit for at least taking the swings. Yeah. And I just think the fact that they missed, and then with everything else, maybe they didn't miss, but there's so much not working in this episode. It's really hard for anything to push through.
Yeah. I would say, before we get into it, as a whole, my immediate reaction was not great. But then looking back, there were pieces that I was like, I was happy that they took those swings, like you said. And I think some of them hit. Like, some of the things worked. So should we just get into it?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. All right. Let's go.
So the cold open starts with Bill on the radio this time. And he's hosting a morning radio show in Chicago. Dan comes in to do the weather.
I like that. I like that it was Chicago.
That it was Chicago? Yeah, it was good.
I think this is a Brian Dole Murray piece, which makes sense, it being set in Chicago. But I did like the fact that he wasn't New York and was a Chicago DJ. It was fun. Yeah,
that's good. Dan comes in and gets applause from the audience right away. That was fun.
An unprompted applause from the audience. Yeah, just on his entrance.
Yeah. And then Bill's just taking calls from everybody. You know, Gilda does a call in. Jane does one. Garrett does one. Garrett's was very funny, I thought. His delivery was very good on the phone, where he's like, I understand there's this woman that needs breast milk. I have some. I thought he was good.
It was a funny setup. Yeah, the whole thing was,
Yeah, and I thought Bill was really good, because he would go into what he was saying and then cut back to, you know, he was like calling the Eastern Airlines, and then as he's waiting as the phone's ringing, he's just like, Rock Hudson is 61 today.
Yeah, the asides on the phone, I had that note too, were very funny. Then a little bit later, he says something like, free checks X-rays, the mobile unit's going to be out at blah, 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 blah. Like, he did that very well. Yeah.
I thought Bill was very good in this. John comes in and brings lobsters, which is a callback to the beginning of the sketch. He gets a big reaction from the crowd.
Another applause. But John's been getting them. So that's exactly. Like, to your point, Dan getting one was interesting to see, because I don't think he's gotten one before. John, we've seen him before.
Yeah. And then John sets up the live from New York. That wasn't great, but whatever. It was.
Yeah, a little forced. Like you said, it was a callback to earlier in the sketch about the lobsters. He had a caller on the line. If they're doing a blood drive, and if they reach their goal, he'd get 2 free lobsters. And so John brings the lobsters. So that the callback was nice, but then it's a little bit of a forced live from New York.
But I thought it was a fun cold open. I liked the way that everyone got involved in some way, even if they're just calling in on the phone. I thought Bill was really good in this as the DJ.
He was. He had a great line where he stumps Dan. Dan comes in as the weatherman. He's typical Dan, like rattling off all these stats and what the weather's going to be, blah, 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 blah. And Bill looks at him. What's the temperature right now? And Dan's like, and he can't figure it out. And then that's Bill's like, well, hey, anybody out there, if you know the temperature, give me a call. What's the temperature? I think that's the one that Gilda calls in with the temperature.
Yeah, it was really funny.
I feel like it's been a while since we've seen something like this where it's like a proper sketch. Like, this could have been a sketch on its own.
Yeah.
That they incorporated into the cold open. You know, it isn't like a political thing or like behind the scenes meta thing. It's like, this is just a sketch. And you can kind of see, like, forced maybe a little bit the live from New York into at the end. But it was fun to see like a proper sketch, a regular sketch.
Right.
Which was
I
nice.
agree. Yeah. And it was a good way to start the show. It really was a cold open that worked out well.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's our show, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week with
Then we go to the monologue, and my first note was, there's a guitar.
My first note was, of course, there's a band standing by for him at home base. Of course.
Ricky does a joke about folks not recognizing him in color because he had been on Ozzie and Harriet in the 50s. That was it. And then he immediately breaks into song. He starts playing Hello, Mary Lou.
Mm-hmm.
Were you a big fan of this song before you saw it in the monologue?
No, I didn't know any of these 3 songs.
You gave it up too soon.
The balls to play.
How many songs is he going to sing? Surely he would only sing just one in the monologue. No.
Let me go through my notes here. Hello, Mary Lou comes on. My next note. Another song. What is this, a concert?
Oh, I had that too.
Then I have a throwaway line. Is that Horseshack on bass? And then my next note. What the hell, a third song? Even Paul Simon doesn't have the balls to pull this shit off. Followed by my last note. Unreal.
My notes were a second song, ?
Yeah.
Then 4 guitarists. We needed 4 guitarists for this.
This is worse than Bruce Springsteen having Patty on guitar.
Oh. And then my last note was, did I put on a Rick Nelson concert?
Yeah, what the hell, man?
I really was surprised when he started on a second song. I was shocked. Shocked when a third song started. Yes. That was insane.
Imagine my fucking surprise when this guy puts on a third song.
Yeah. I don't know. It was kind of incredible. Like you said, he's a musician at this time, but still. Like you said, Paul Simon doesn't do 3 songs as a monologue.
He at least knows to stop.
Or he puts on a turkey suit.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was
very different.
Yeah. So I didn't know. I don't know Ricky Nelson that well, really. I think I knew Hello, Mary Lou. That was the only one of these 3 songs he decided to open the show with.
Well, this kind of explains, I don't know if you remember last week at the close of the show, I said I introduced him as a musical guest, and now it makes sense.
I was so upset after this monologue.
Yeah. It was hard. It wasn't a monologue. It was a musical set.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Guy thinks he's the band.
Well, yeah.
Has anybody? Yeah, the band's the only other group. Oh, maybe the Kinks. No, the Kinks did a medley.
The Kinks did.
Has any other group played 3 full tunes in their entirety
to this point? Not in a row like this.
But that's the only thing, right? That's the only.
I think so.
God almighty.
Yeah. Well, I think we're probably around 15 minutes into the show at this point, and we get our first
it's midnight
sketch.
At this point.
Yeah.
Or by the time this sketch is done, at least.
Well, we get the Twilight Zone. So again, Dan as Rod Serling, which I really, really like Dan's Rod Serling. I think he's very good at this.
Part of my season 1 comment. Yeah.
Yeah. And this essentially is Ricky Nelson playing his character from Ozzie and Harriet.
Of course. Right off the bat. Like they've been doing this season.
Right.
Ricky. Carrie Fisher, Walter Matthau. Get your big character out of the way early. Yeah.
Yep. And he goes home, and it turns out that he is not at home with Ozzie and Harriet, but he's first at the Cleaver's house. So Jane plays Mrs. Cleaver. John comes in. John comes in as Beaver and Bill as Eddie Haskell. I thought he was really good as Eddie Haskell. That was a lot
Bill's
of fun.
good tonight. Bill is very good tonight. Yeah. How great is Jane as June Cleaver, by the way?
How
Fantastic.
great is Jane in this? Right, because first she's June Cleaver, and then
she's an excellent June Cleaver. Like just the body action, like she's a fantastic June Cleaver. Very good.
Yeah, that was great. And then we're taken back to the Twilight Zone, and then he goes to.
Then he goes to Father Knows Best.
Yeah. So then he comes and again, it's the same setup where it's taking all of these 50s TV shows.
Yeah.
And he's going from one family to the other.
Father Knows Best is only the second of 4 1950s sitcoms they show up at.
Yeah.
Because after the second one, Dan has a great line. He goes, "Who would accept the charges? from the Twilight Zone when he tries to make a phone call. And I'm like, Jesus, they're going to have another one?
Yeah, they do. And my first note on this one was, God damn, Garrett's in drag.
Yeah. You know they have a Von Hudson. They just used her in December.
Exactly. We felt really good about that.
Come on, guy. I know. Like, we started making strides, guys.
I know.
This was one, admittedly, I did not know this show. This Danny Thomas show, Make Room for Daddy. I did not know this one.
I don't know it. I've only know the name of it, but not anything else about it.
But John came out with a nose. Like, he has a prosthetic on in this sketch.
Yes. Right.
Or this piece of the sketch. Still the same sketch in this piece of the sketch.
Yeah. It was really good. And then the fourth one, we get another one, and it's the Lucy show. I Love Lucy, and Gilda's out as Lucy. And Schiller comes in as Ricky.
Schiller comes in. Fucking Bill is Cesar Romero. That's great. Bill, this is Bill's third character. Schiller. Oh, I brought my friend Cesar Romero, and it's Bill. Oh,
it's Bill. Yeah. Yeah, Bill did have a really strong show tonight. You're right.
He did. And then, this goes nowhere other than to let them do the Lucy bit, which was funny. It was Gilda's Lucy was funny.
Yeah.
Especially since she calls him Ricky for the first 2 minutes. You know, like she plays the Ricky
her
joke.
Back. Yeah.
But when Dan comes on as Alfred Hitchcock, he too now has a third changeover. I literally laughed out loud. I thought it was hilarious to see, just see him as Hitchcock. And then, not surprisingly, does a great Hitchcock. George Burns is pretty good. I love the Hitchcock at the end. The Hitchcock at the end was amazing.
Was so good.
Out of nowhere. Nowhere.
And excellent Hitchcock. And my note was, the crowd does not seem into this. Why? Like, why are they not into it?
I'll tell you why. Because this was a 10-minute sketch. It was a long, long sketch.
Yeah.
It kind of had to be long because part of the quote unquote fun of the sketch is the changeovers, is the people playing. And I did enjoy the liveness of the sketch, for lack of a better word, of using the same people over and over again. But it was really long and it felt long.
Right.
And so I think that might have been the reason why they weren't, at that point, they weren't loving the Hitchcock at the end.
Yeah. I guess I think the other piece of it is that we're seeing it all in black and white and they're seeing it all in color. And it's just, I don't know, something about it, I think probably translates differently.
That's a good point. I feel like watching it on TV, it plays better to a TV audience because of that, because of the black and white. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. But the Hitchcock, I thought it was excellent. That was great.
I was surprised to see it and I really liked it.
Yeah, me too.
I was just, it was tough to see a sketch this long after that monologue. I was already unhappy after that monologue. I think you needed to like cleanse the palate and move on. And this was not the best idea. I guess because it is so long. Like it's a long piece. So you have to be in it for the long haul. Like this is an instance, I think, of this episode taking swings. Anytime you do a 10-minute sketch, it's a swing.
Yeah.
And it's not very funny. And I that's not a knock. It was smart using Ricky Nelson as Ricky Nelson. And it's a great way to play off of that. I wonder how much of this came from an idea I think Al Franken pitched. There's a story in the Hill Weingrad book where Ricky Nelson shows up to the studio this week to start rehearsals and stuff. And he walks into Lorne's office and Al's in there and Al says, how about a sketch? Ozzy is dead. And like, that's how he's introduced to the show. So I wonder if, they kind of played with that idea of Ozzy being dead. Instead of being dead, he's like in this weird purgatory of 50s sitcom thing. So yeah, like you said, they take swings, and I think this is a first example of it. It's just that fucking monologue just does not help.
Well, I think also
if he would have done one song, the fact that he had the balls to do 3 songs and to waste that much, there's not a lot of sketches in this episode.
I like that you're harping on this still.
I hate it. I'm so pissed.
I think the other piece of this is it totally reflects how 50s sitcoms were all interchangeable and the same. And it's like making a comment on that too.
That's
right.
Yeah.
And the Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock were something different than those things. But it was all this like paying tribute to the 50s TV that Ricky Nelson was a part of, but also kind of poking at it. So
yeah,
I think it was there. Yeah.
It is there. I think the length might have hurt it. That's all. Maybe if it was a little shorter. I don't know.
Well,
but then I don't know. Whatever.
It's not like we followed up with a short sketch from there.
Oh. So there's not a lot of sketches in this episode because it's so top
That's because these two were like take up 20 minutes of the show.
That one I did time was 10. I don't know what this one was, but that one I know was 10.
I didn't time in this one either, but we go to the benefit concert Rock Against Yeast 1979, and we start with Don Kirshner and Jerry Aldini hanging out, talking. It's Bill and Paul Schaefer.
That's all you need, 1979.
Yeah, that's it. Then we see Rick Nelson as himself, who feels like they dropped him in as himself, yet didn't do much with him in this sketch at all. No, it was just there. No. It's as if they have him in the sketch just so everyone else can play different characters that they felt like they wanted to play. So Dan comes on as early Elvis, and John plays later Elvis in their Elvis tribute, Elvi.
It's after we see Olivia Newton-John, right? Lorraine's Olivia Newton-John early on.
Yes. I was very confused by her Olivia Newton-John at first because I was like, what? Why doesn't she have an Australian accent? She sounds British. And then she was kind of popping in and out of that. Jane plays Dolly Parton. And then we get Gilda as Candy Slice, who, once again, when she comes in, falls in from the door.
Yeah. Not as good as a fall, but falls in.
Yeah, not as good a fall, but yeah, Bill catches her this time. And then Bill and Tom Davis carry her to the stage where she performs. Paul, another quick change, this time for Paul Schaefer.
Yeah, Paul's out there on drums again. That's true.
That's right.
But it was very cool. And I did like this, how they tied the backstage set.
Yes.
To the under the bleachers. So like you said, literally after he carries Candy Slice around the backstage area, Bill and Tom Davis grab her up and carry her out the door through the bleachers down the hall to home base where this stage is. And I love how they really did that. And I also loved how when they got to home base, did you notice the Elvi are on stage, like finishing their set? So I did love that timing and that connection thing. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, that was good. And then she sings a whole song, which I, again, was surprised by because I was like, this feels long.
Yeah. I mean, the first half of the sketch was like a sketch unto itself.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like you said, a lot of people coming and going. You could have made up an out and that could have been it. But nope, there's a whole song coming up.
Yeah. Did you notice when Gilda was interacting with Jane as Dolly Parton, she kept elbowing her boob?
I didn't notice the elbowing of the boob, but I noticed the part where they're talking. She just like stares right at it and she's like looking at her. I noticed that part.
Yeah. So we just saw Candy Slice, 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
Well, a few episodes ago. It was the Eric Idle. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It feels like they're doing that a lot this season where they see something they like and they bring it back right away. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in new stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should say, which one of our listeners pointed out on social media, on Twitter, like we didn't mention the fact that Candy Slice is a parody of Patti Smith. We completely missed that in the first time.
I feel like there was so much to talk about. Yes, we should have mentioned that. There was a lot to talk about, but that is true. Yeah.
So we should say that. Yes, it is her take on Patti Smith, which is pretty funny. Who Patti Smith talked about this too, and she said she's actually liked it. She's actually saw it and thought it was funny and humorous, and like her and the guys in her band used to watch it and laugh at it and really liked it. So, and it's a decent song.
Yeah,
it's again long, but I think it's a fun song, and I think she performs it well. It's another instance of her kind of two sides of the coin. She can barely stand,
right,
and has to literally be carried to the stage. And then the song kicks in and like she turns on as a performer.
Yep.
And does this like, I don't know, I think it's a really good little punk song about Mick Jagger and her love of Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Hey, Mick Jagger, if you're out there, this is for you.
And then as soon as the song's over, she drops. Yeah. Back on the floor.
I'm pretty sure on the last chorus, the very last line, she says fucked up fan.
I thought so too.
Because most of you hear it's I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a funked up fan.
Right.
For most of the song. But the very last one, I rewound it to listen. I'm fairly certain she got a fuck in there.
I think she did. Yeah. I think you're right.
I don't know. Not as good as the first, but still fun.
Yeah. Still fun. Just a little long. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, just a little bloated. It was a little much of so much backstage and then a full song. There was a lot, especially as you've mentioned, you had a really long monologue with some knucklehead doing 3 tunes and then the 10-minute Twilight sketch and now this. So it's not a surprise that we are already at Weekend Update.
That's amazing. Weekend Update this week brought to you by Chiclet of the Sea, tuna flavored chewing gum. I really liked that. And then from there, I don't know, more Iran jokes.
So you got some good old camera look flubs. Again, season 1, baby.
That's
Jane
true.
can't find a camera. Season 2, it's old school Weekend. There's a lot of season 1 vibes this week.
There were President Carter jokes. Then Chico Escuela comes back because he's going to spring training to try for a comeback. That was a fun little back and forth with him and Jane putting each other down.
He tries to call Jaina, or not Jane, with Jan? Jan
or Yane.
Jan is a sarcastic bitch. Yane.
Yeah.
Calls her a sarcastic bitch, which really only got like a polite applause from the audience. I don't know. They didn't know how to take Garrett on this, but.
Nope. I liked Bill's joke about the Honest Abe's performing in Ford Theater.
I don't know. I thought a lot of these jokes were struggling.
I think so.
There was an asparagus versus salt, SALT joke that kind of went nowhere.
Yep.
Jane, this is another how great is Jane? She delivers a Shaw joke that was really bad. And she does one of those look up from the desk and just slides the paper off the desk and tosses it away after the joke was read. I was like, okay, she still got it.
We know how you feel, Jane. Thank you.
Yeah, there's that Jane update desk vibe I like.
Yeah, exactly. And then Dan shows up unannounced.
Yeah, I noticed.
Just totally out of, all of a sudden the camera cuts to Dan, who's there for point counterpoint this week, talking about cocaine. Jane is pro cocaine and Dan is not. I don't know. I thought this was a typical point counterpoint. It wasn't great. It wasn't horrible. It was fine.
Dan, of course, is great. I thought Jane's side, her argument was a little bit weak. It was just kind of hard. It didn't have her normal conviction, of her like really leaning in passionately about what she's arguing about. And it was even weirder that it was about her doing drugs. So she's talking about how she's tried marijuana and she tried cocaine. So I didn't love Jane's portion, but like Dan ripping into Jane at the start was hilarious. It was classic Dan. It was great. And Dan's half was really good, but the Jane part of it just didn't help sell it for me.
No, I get that. It was, again, I think it was kind of a middle of the road point counterpoint for me. And that's Weekend Update. It was pretty quick.
It was short. Like they just didn't have any material.
No.
Or they burned through it as quick as they could because they kind of weren't fans of it. Because it did feel like they were like, rat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat, like let's just keep going through.
Especially Jane. She was just like one after the other. Keep going. Yeah.
Well.
And so it goes. From there, though, we get, I don't know, one of the more recognizable sketches, I think, from this time period.
I think so.
Yeah. ¿Quién es más macho? Hosted by Bill as Paco Valenzuela. With contestants Rick Nelson as Jorge Lopez and Gilda as Graciela Cortez. And this, I've always liked this sketch because I think it's so funny that it's just kind of like elementary Spanish.
Well, this is another one. You have to appreciate the balls to do this, especially in 1979, where the whole sketch is in Spanish.
Yeah.
But yet you know exactly what they're saying. And like you said, it actually almost turns into a Spanish class where it's like, he's at the library. Where is the library? Don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this is one that used to make the clips forever. That I remember, like in all those early clip packages, and like the 15th anniversary. He's like, "Hey, es mus macho, Fernando Lamas u Ricardo Montalban."
Muy macho, muy bien, muy bien. ¿Preparados? Ahora jugamos ¿Quién es más macho? Cuestión número 1. Jorge, Graciela, bien. ¿Quién es más macho? ¿Fernando Lamas o Ricardo Montalban? ¿Quién es más macho? ¿Señor Lamas o Montalban? Jorge.
Ricardo Montalban.
Ricardo Montalban es más macho. ¿Por qué?
Porque Córdoba es automóvil muy macho.
No es falso. Fernando Lamas es un poquito más macho. Perdón. Gracielita. Es muy caliente. Ahora, cuestión bonus para ti. La cuestión es en 3 partes.
Sí.
Escucha bien. ¿Quién es más macho? David Johnson, Lloyd Bridges o Jack Lord? Repito, David Johnson, Lloyd Bridges or Jack Lord?
Yeah, and I think Bill's so good in this. Like, he's just so much fun.
He is having a blast. I agree with you. It's fun. It's a decent Bill episode. Jim Downey piece. Let's give some credit. The great Jim Downey wrote this one.
Nice.
And, and then it's funny. They do this whole Spanish game show with like no explanation too, which I also like. There's no explanation like why it's a Spanish game show. It's just everyone speaking Spanish. But then they bring back Elliot Ness again to my argument that this is very season 1. Elliot Ness shows back up with Lee, Rocco, Youngblood.
Yeah, I did not remember this from the
Elliot Ness part of it coming in.
Yeah, I forgot about the Elliot Ness of it.
It's funny. It's a nice callback, I think, to the show itself. You know what I mean? Of like bringing back the Elliot Ness and Lee, Rico, Youngblood. Like that all was, as a fan of the show, I think it was a nice nod to the audience of remember what we used to do, because it makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
I mean, sadly, it makes sense today, but that's another point.
Yeah.
But
that's...
this is going to be my explanation of this. It's a decent sketch that I thought just got hurt in this episode. At this point, it's been a long I just feel like as a viewer, you never got past the first 20 minutes of this show. Like you just got so slowed down that for me, at least, it was hard to get back into the momentum of like enjoying it because those sketches were long and then update was not very good. It's just like, this is a funny sketch. I was just not enjoying the episode enough to enjoy this sketch as much as I wanted to, but it is a good sketch. And again, like I said, the fact that they even tried to do this is cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed this. I think the part that took me out of it really was the whole Elliot Ness of it all. Like you said, it doesn't really make any sense in this piece, but I don't know. I feel like it could have gone somewhere different with it and it would have been just as fun.
I guess that's what I'd say. It doesn't make any sense, but you had no out for this sketch. Aside from maybe dropping the cow, you had no out of this sketch. So I appreciated the Elliot Ness because it gave you a decent out of a way to end a sketch. A silly way to end a sketch. A fun way.
I guess. I mean, but it's a game show. Like for an out, you go to commercial. That's all. Like that's your out. It doesn't need to be.
No, but it's not overly complicated. They one-upped it. I can't believe I'm arguing for something on this episode. It's a smarter way than going to commercials, what I'm trying to say, especially for the show, because you're kind of giving a nod back to stuff you've done before.
All I'm saying, I really like the first half of this sketch. The second half of this sketch, it just kind of takes me out of it. That's all.
It doesn't do anything. I agree. The Alien Nest doesn't do anything other than give you an out when they, because there is a, sorry, because there is a part where he's like, check under the desk. There's probably tons of them under there, and they go back to start taking apart the set, and all these. All these guys start swarming out
everywhere.
Fucking sets.
But then even that, Dan then takes a hatchet or something to the desk, like to try to break it, and it doesn't break.
It doesn't break. And then Gilda has a great line where, and I'm going to mess this up, but she looks to Bill and she goes, "Oh, Elliot Ness, mas macho."
Yes.
So it ties it back in, man. Come on.
I guess.
I'm just trying to get all my positivity out now.
Oh, good. Because from there we get our musical guest for this week.
I
finally.
hate this woman.
After 3 songs.
Sorry.
What do you have against Judy Collins?
Did you watch this song? Did you listen to it? This could be the worst song we've ever had on the show in 3.5 seasons.
I can't totally disagree with you.
This continues my violence. This is Anne Murray. This is Esther Phillips. This is Rosalind Kind. Granted, that was season 2. Like, what is this woman doing on the show?
I don't know. It's kind of crazy, right? Were you familiar with Judy Collins?
No, I was not. I was not. I do know she was a folk singer and like was big in the 60s and 70s, but again, or early 70s, I should say. And she did have a new album coming out that this was the title track to, Hard Time for Lovers. I guess it was her first album in like 3 years. Did not do too well. Go figure. I don't know. You know who played on that album? I'll give you a hint. Slide guitar.
Donald Duck Dunn.
Skunk Baxter, baby. Also, Jim Keltner on drums.
Huh. And that doesn't make it any better for you?
I actually had to look it up because I was fairly certain she was dating Paul Simon. And that's how she ended up on this show.
No. I got...
This is a horrible song. First of all, I actually, for some reason, was able, probably because it was so minimal, able to listen to the lyrics. This is a horrendous song.
What were the lyrics?
I wanted to look the lyrics up. Hold on. Now I will do it. What is it? Hard Time Lovers? No. Hard Time for Lovers lyrics. Seems like it was just a while ago. All of my friends and I went to each other's weddings and stood by each other's side and became brides. Here's another line. For each other merry pair of us that already split in two, each of us turning our own lives alone or sleeping with someone new. Ain't it true? What the hell is this? That last line was me, by the way, not the song. I think this is the chorus. These are hard times for lovers. Everyone wants to be free. Aren't these hard times for lovers? Everyone singing, I gotta be me without you. This is just horrible.
I mean, we've already spent 10 times more minutes on this than I thought we would.
Did you know this one's actually true? This is,
I'm going to say right now.
This is not me making shit up. This is true.
I guarantee I did not know whatever you're going to say.
The song Sweet Judy Blue Eyes is about her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She used to be Steven Stills' girlfriend back in the 60s. And that song off their first album was about her.
Huh. She does have blue eyes.
Yeah. Somehow this song would make it to like 66 on the charts. I don't know.
There were smaller charts then.
I hate this song. I hate everything about this song. I hate the 3 backup singers, those dudes that had no business being there.
Yeah, that was unnecessary.
Actually, the one thing, did you see the guitar player at the one point? They like pan over to the guitar player who's there, who's like completely high. Cannot believe he's actually playing this shit on television. The only saving grace of this performance. I actually wrote, I'm fairly certain we do not see John or Garrett for the rest of the night because they're backstage just getting completely fucked up right now.
Yeah, that's probably true. Especially for poor Garrett, because his only role was as a maid this week.
Shit, was that right? Oh, you're right.
I believe so.
And the voiceover on the phone line. Ugh. I don't know. This is another one. No reason why. I mean, she was a big deal. She did have a new album coming out or was just out. So like maybe they're trying to like, this is the throw the bone, but like, oh my God, this is just reminiscent of like all the bad acts we saw the first 2 seasons.
Yeah. Well,
speaking of season 1, tell me this next sketch wasn't left over from season 1.
Yeah. It doesn't get any better with the next sketch. It's Rick Nelson to camera He's selling helium for when you have bad news to break to someone. And then this is the part that got me. He pretends to suck some helium, and then they use an effect.
Only because he had to go
instead of him actually.
He had to go back to his real voice. I get why they use the effect, but I agree with you. It takes away from the gag, and he was having trouble selling the gag to begin with. So like the voiceover effect just did not help.
No, none of that worked.
The only note I had for this one is this felt something that's been sitting around for a while. Like season 1.
You think it was written for George Coe?
Probably. George Coe could have pulled this off.
Well, just when you were thinking Rick Nelson might be the actually, my note immediately after this sketch is this episode is taking forever.
Yeah, I'm telling you again. Whatever. You never got it. Got sunk in the first 15 minutes, and they never recovered.
No. Well, we still got a long way to go because we have another long sketch. This time at the mall.
Yeah.
So we're at the barbershop run by Ricky Nelson and
Did you notice
Bill.
in the opening clip, though, when they show the mall, that there was a store with a Scotch tape facade on it? The sketch opens up with like a shot, like the interior of like a mall courtyard kind of thing, and they start talking about things. You can hear stuff, and on the left hand side there was a storefront that had like a Scotch tape thing on the top, which I liked.
Well, that was fun. And Gilda comes in as that character.
I mean, they're tying it together, and Dan comes back in as his character from the first time too. Yeah.
Yep. And John as well. But Dan comes in so there's a barbershop. We don't need to spend time on this. Lorraine is there. She leaves. And then Dan comes in as a customer, and then they're just lamenting the demise of the mall.
She's going to go work at the other mall. That's why she leaves, because she's like, well, you can just go.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just explain it. I don't know. There's about, I don't know, what felt like 8 minutes talking about if Puppyland has left the mall or when it's leaving the mall, and it's not going to leave till the spring.
Yep. Can't do it now because the puppies will get sick. Got to wait till spring. Bill and Rick just take turns giving each other haircuts.
Yeah, they do a decent reveal of Rick's getting his haircut to start the sketch, so he's covered in the barber's thing, and he's the one who actually tells Lorraine to leave. And I was like, what is he doing? And then he pulls it off, and you see he's dressed in the same outfit as Bill, and he's the other barber.
Bill tells the story of cutting the guy's hair in the hospital, and he died as soon as he
that
finished
was funny.
cutting his hair.
I did think the Bill story about the guy dying on him was funny.
And it was not a quick in and out sketch. It was a while.
Like we said, we've seen this before. This is Don Novello, another of his like scenes in the mall story. So he's like he does Olympia Cafe. Like he's building story from sketch.
He's building
to
little
sketch.
worlds.
Yeah, a little world. Like you mentioned, Gilda comes back and they ask her how their business is doing, and she said it's doing well because everybody needs tape to tape up their going out of business signs.
Right.
It's like the other one. It's not a laugh out loud funny sketch. Again, it's a hard sketch to put in this episode because it's been a tough episode to get to this point. But you know what? Actually, I think the biggest thing for me that this sketch didn't work as well, it wasn't absurd enough. Like the first one, the idea was absurd. You had a store that only sold tape. Barbershop is very realistic. Like you buy in, there's a barbershop. Like there wasn't anything about the barbershop that made it silly. Like they weren't catering to only like the smallest clientele or anything. Like they were a regular barbershop. So it was just more sad because it was believable that they were failing.
Right.
And Ricky Nelson was good, but he's just very straight. Where Fred Willard in the tape store, his character was a lot better, whether it was developed or his portrayal. Like Ricky was just a straight man. So he wasn't adding anything. So it was just, there just wasn't like enough there.
I think you just summed up the episode, Brad. He wasn't adding anything.
But that goes back to my point. Why is he hosting?
I'm not disagreeing with you.
This is why I get upset with this episode.
Well, maybe this next piece will turn the corner for you. We have Schiller's Reel, talking about Picasso, the New York years. And it's just Tom Schiller as a reporter going around hitting all of Picasso's favorite haunts from when he was in New York. That time when he decided to go to barber school in New York City.
I think I shot in that barbershop once.
This was a silly Schiller piece.
You like it?
Yes, I did. For what it was. I just like the absurdity of it.
Yeah.
Going to all these diners and like the butcher.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
I liked seeing a Schiller's Reel, I think, more than I enjoyed the actual Schiller's Reel. Because we haven't seen it. I think this is only the third one we've seen this season. We haven't seen one in a long time.
Right.
Since that Roman holiday one.
Yeah.
So I like that we saw it. And yeah, I don't know how strong it was, but it was, I think it's one that he liked. It's a, Picasso and Schiller. And it was kind of fun to see the Picasso in New York idea of it all, but not the strongest Schiller's Reel, but it was still fun to see.
And then we wrap up the show, thank God, with a musical performance.
Yep.
We get Rick Nelson comes back to sing his classic tune, Dream Lover.
His classic tune. It's a Bobby Darin tune.
I know it is.
I thought it was a little too late. A little too late, Ricky.
Too little, too late for poor Ricky Nelson.
Yeah, like I like what you're trying to do here, but sorry, too late.
No, I was honestly just happy that it was the end of the show.
Well, there's no way you can follow up after this song. It's a good, it's a good song, and he actually performs it well. It's just I don't know how you follow this performance. It's just so like melancholy that I don't know how you come back from this, especially at the end of the night. But yeah, and so it's funny. So I mentioned earlier, so he actually was recording a new album at this time in Memphis, and this was one of the songs he had recorded. And it was supposed to be on his upcoming album. And for apparently also we should say this was, I do believe at the time, a very popular episode of the show. People were into it. And his label did not release this song as a single after he performed. Like, I think that was his idea. I'm going to go on and play this song and get buzz. And then we should put the single out and it'll help. And not only do they not put the single out, they drop him then from the label. So this album he had been recording at this time never comes out. I shouldn't say never. It doesn't come out until the late 80s or mid 80s after he dies. And then they released this album called I don't know if it's called the Memphis Sessions or something like that, but they released these songs he was recording at the time. And I think this was the one single that came off that album.
And that's it. That's our show. We come back for good nights and he just says, thank you.
Yeah.
Feels like he was just as happy to have it over.
To my point earlier, John is missing from Good Nights again.
Well, that's it. That's our show. Rick Nelson.
Man.
His one and only hosting appearance on SNL.
The music of this episode just really dragged it down for me. There's too much of it.
All 4 songs.
And 5. There's 5 songs.
Yeah.
And only one of them, I shouldn't say only one of them's good. It's just the problem is his other 3 songs are 20 years old. Like, it's like Desi Arnaz on the show, It's like.
Yeah, but Desi Arnaz was fun. Like when Desi Arnaz
his other
did
stuff
it,
was,
like,
yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know why he was on, especially after seeing it, he didn't bring anything to it. So it's not like he had anything going on. I couldn't find any like close connection to people on the show that they wanted him on, unless it was like, we loved watching him as a kid. I don't know. Like we said, it just started off really, really long. And I think it was hard to come back and regain any of that momentum.
Yeah. There's also not a whole lot of redeeming sketches to bring you back in. Like that Twilight Zone sketch, even if you put that in a different spot in the show, is long.
But it's like, you know what it is? It's now that I think about it, other than the cold open, which was good, cold open, and then you have a bloated candy slice, right? You only have 3 other real proper sketches, and they're all big swings, right? Like you have
Barbershop's not a big swing.
For the kind of vibe it is, yes, I think so. I think anytime you do those small sketches, you're taking a swing because it's not typical. It's not laugh out loud funny. It's not slice. It's like a weird thing for this show to do.
It's like a weird social commentary.
Yeah. So to do that on a show, and then you've got an entire sketch in Spanish, which is really funny. But again, it's out there. It's you're going out on the limb, and then you do a 10-minute Twilight Zone sketch where you're again, and I admittedly can't speak to it, but like how many people watching the show in 1979, especially if they're young viewers, are knowing those shows? Because like They weren't in syndication. It wasn't like the 80s when it was like Nick at Night and all that shit. When those, you'd see I Love Lucy.
But I think
were they? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I think there was, there was syndication, and I think Twilight Zone was a thing. So they were familiar with these things, I think.
Like Father Knows Best
Even
and that shit, really? Okay.
Well, I don't know.
Leave It to Beaver in the maybe, I guess in the 70s. I don't know.
Sure Leave It to Beaver was around. That was around when we were kids too.
But I'm saying by the time we were kids, I feel like that 50s stuff was coming back. That's what I'm saying.
I see.
I understand in the 80s you were seeing like Nick at Night and all that kind of crap.
50s stuff was coming back in the 70s though.
Yeah, that's what
I don't know.
Maybe I could be completely off base on this, but it was at this point because I was like, I don't understand the host. Even after watching this, I'm even more confused. And that's when I thought maybe it's possible he was dating Paul Simon. I was waiting till now to try to throw that out there, but
oh, sorry. I did that at the top of the show.
God damn it. I mean, it was better than last week, if for only because it's not nearly as offensive.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, was it? But yeah, if you take that into account, then yes. Good job not being as offensive. Although they did get Garrett and Drag this week.
Right. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Brad, what are your best bits?
¿Qué es más macho? Which I completely messed up saying, but más macho. And I gotta say Rock Against Yeast 79. I mean, there's a lot going on there. It is I think it's probably maybe the bigger well-known of the pieces she does. It's worth watching. It's very long, but it's good. I put those two.
I agree. I'm gonna say ¿Quién es más macho?
Yeah, I can't speak Spanish, so see, thank you. I
think ¿Quién es más macho? I say The Twilight Zone. I liked what they were going for with The Twilight Zone. I think it was just in the wrong spot at the show. I don't think it was the right thing to do right after the monologue. Mm-hmm. But I just liked all of the changes, all of the impressions that people were doing. I think it worked for that reason alone.
And to be fair, this is the only episode you're doing that sketch in. Like that.
Right.
Like it is a very good sketch for this host. So
yeah.
Okay.
That's it. That's our show. Glad that's over. Next week, we'll be talking more early years of SNL with season 4, episode 13, with host Kate Jackson and musical guest. I think this is a big one for you, Delbert McClinton. No,
not that. I mean, I like Delbert McClinton, but not huge.
Well, you're gonna like him more than you like this week's musical.
Yeah, better than Judy Collins. I'll take him any day.
There you go. Or Ricky Nelson.
Oh God.
Until then. Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Have a pleasant tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please take a moment to rate and review the project wherever you find us. You can also drop us a line to let us know what you liked or didn't and what else you might like to hear in the future at nr4ptproject@gmail.com.
Hold on, here's another one. Now, honey, I'm supposed to tell you, I've got to live for today. And don't you know it's my lifetime? I've got to live it my own way.
That's beautiful.